Here we are, back again. Today, I'm going to talk to you about something a little bit different because I keep getting asked similar questions about basically what's it like running an education organization and what is the reality. So, a lot of the time, I get asked questions about I want to do a CIC and I want to start, and naturally, I think the rationale behind it for a lot of people is because they think you have access to funding and it's easier than setting up a charity. But I kind of want to touch on a few things in terms of why me personally I'm here and I'm in education. So to roll it back, so as you see here, lead over at bouncing statistics. And in all honesty, I think there's a premise from a lot of people and they think actually you're doing well, you're doing great. I've been at a point before, I think at the highest, we had 20 odd staff and I was quite, I don't want to say young, but I was younger. I'm 31 now, so I was like 25, 26 when I first started with my friends. And I've had to learn a lot about myself. So I had an ego, I learned, and I was like, actually, what? You're doing this, you got a business, you got staff, and I'm helping people. And I felt blessed in the time of what I was doing. And the point in the journey, what I've got to now is, at the time that was great. And for those that don't know, we started simply just doing mentoring. And schools will contact say they need mentors in schools. That's something that people can do, but I think it created a false economy for a lot of people because there was never no standard. So in terms of a standard, I mean, let's say if you wanted to be a surgeon, you had to go uni, you had to do X, you had to do Y. You want to be a teacher, got to get your qualified teaching status. You have to do PGC, all these type of things. But in terms of what we were doing, there was never no standard. And the reality, when I get asked about how the journey's been, listen, it's been a roller coaster, like serious roller coaster. See what I'm saying? I'm sitting here now and if I had to explain to you the most of it, you probably wouldn't understand. And the reality is, I've had situations where, for argument's sake, people that I feel like in terms of leading, I'm a very good individual. And when I say good, I mean in terms of I'm laid back, not in terms of proficiency or anything. In terms of I'm laid back, I feel like I give inches, just don't take miles. I've had situations where we've hired, kept individuals for periods where they probably shouldn't have been kept, ended up stealing from us, switching narratives. I've had people, saying they've come into work and not turning up, not clocking in until we find out after and having to get money back. I've had people talking about, I got this job offer, I need to go tomorrow after we've liaised and, looked the other way and gave jobs. Listen, I could go through it. And the reason I say all of this because where I'm situated in terms of being a social entrepreneur, the means is that I just want to do good for individuals. And I always say to individuals, I don't think necessarily that, to have an impact, you need to build the grandest thing, the largest thing, and do what you do in here. You can always look outside of it and say, look, there's certain things I want to be doing, but I don't have to be the best and the biggest to what I'm doing as well. So one of the things that was challenging in terms of designing programs. So our first program we designed, right, and we came together and it literally, I remember I was on remember these times Grace and on with him every morning, 6 o'clock on Zoom, falling asleep, creating a program as a means to support. And it was a graph, there was 100 or 200 pages. But at the same time, I have to ask the question, how skilled was I at the time to decide that this is how a program's constructed? What theoretically, what was I putting in? How was I basing anything that I was doing? That's a real question there. I think when individuals, if I gave advice to CICs and they always, whether it's sports, whether it's mentoring, whether it's working with young people, and they say, I want to work with schools, I always have to question why people want to do these things because directly or indirectly, I've said it before that I get paid from central government, right? So then that means whatever tide changes in the world that impacts your whole livelihood and your business. I know that on the top of the agenda, young people and the disparities and the outcomes are at the top of the agenda. Yet for some reason, I built my whole business based on these young people and supporting these young people, which is dangerous within itself and it doesn't really make much sense. So that within itself, once you become more clued up and you understand where you're operating, it's a catch-22 because we meet children all the time. And it's like, okay, without us, what are you actually going to do because the support isn't there? But by supporting, you put yourself at a serious detriment. And then that becomes challenging because you're creating a business that really, it's not your job. It should be the government. Look how much money's been wasted on HS2. That same funding could go and renovate certain areas, give certain support to certain young people. and that's challenging within itself. Again, you've always got to manage staff, and the reason why I get embroiled in the difficulties is because when I look back now, I think to myself, imagining staff, I'm getting all this stress. The stress ain't even worth it. When you think about cash flow, you invoice 30 days, you're going to wait, unless you're going to have people freelance and just get paid that way. I think it becomes very dangerous to some degree, because you're saying, look, I'm waiting on money. My paydays come whether it's in the tens, 15s, 20s, £25,000 every month. You got to fork out. You've got to make a decision that you're okay with that. But then if you're catching stress from people, but you're not necessarily making the finances, but you're doing it for good causes, I think you have a little less tolerance. Well, that's something that I found within myself. And, I've had to shift expectations between myself, my team, to let them understand that, look, I'm still human. And for example, we've took on contracts before where schools are having to pay less, but I know it's going to keep someone their job. But in reality, by the time you pay them, national insurance goes up in this space, you support them. Am I really necessarily making money, or am I just now waiting longer? And then they'll probably complain because they still expect the same level of service, but they actually can't afford to pay the same amount of money. And I'm not saying that's everyone, but that's a common theme that I'm finding in this space as well. And I think there's a challenge. If you want to do this type of work, you need to realize that there's a difference between the impact and the outcomes, right? So a lot of people talk about this impact, but it doesn't take a genius to look outside and recognize that it's getting worse. And then, as Ball says, I think it's Ball, he talks about this phrase, he loves it, and I repeat, he always says about neoliberalism allows individuals like us in the private sector, per se, to capitalize on disaster. And I think when you actually do the study and you recognize that actually I've got a CIC, actually I'm helping young people, I'm trying to help them progress. Yeah, I might have gotten good grades, but what does that actually mean for life? How have you gotten good grades? And it's something when I have a conversation with people and they talk about impact, I have to realize and understand that I had to get out of my own bubble to realize, okay, I think that because someone sits down with a kid for an hour a week, that I'm changing. That doesn't mean that good work isn't taking place. That doesn't mean we haven't seen young people move forward. I get messages all the time. But like now, I want to see genuine change. So impact and change, they're two different things. I know I said outcomes, but it's the impact. It isn't change. And I want to see real change for young people. And I think that's the reality of having an organization. So sometimes you have to step away from doing certain things. Like now, I've just had a meeting and she wants, for example, after school clubs, 5 days a week. And I'm turning around, I'm saying, look, I can probably sort it, but it's not worth the stress. It's not going to really change lives. It's not what I'm in it for. But naturally, it's going to be profitable at that time. But where I am in my journey, as much as you want to scale, you've got to start making a choice about what you want to embark on and how you want to move forward. So hopefully you start to understand what the journey's like. Is it easy? No. Is it painful? Yes. Are there easier things to be doing? I think so. Because of the close links to the local economy and the local government as well, and nationally as well. So I think that's always a factor. So hopefully you've took a couple of gems away. Hopefully I haven't put you off. And on other videos, I'll try and give the practicality. So when I'm talking about, a lot of the topics, like before, I think it's attainment, and we're talking about what does that mean. So people that are trying to say, I've had questions already, watch the video, seen snippets and saying, actually, that's very interesting. How can I then build what I am doing to make sure I solve this gap and solve it correctly and push forward? So yeah, man, stay tapped in. And again, I don't like doing this every time, but it's just like, comment, subscribe. We need some subscribers. We're not really bothered about the views. The views will be all right. Outcome, we're chilling. But again, we're just doing it for the one person, the two people. If it's yourself and you see this and you go, actually, you know what? Yeah, man, I wanted to set up a CIC. I wanted to get into the education space, but I didn't think about the pitfalls. And there are some. So again, it's saying, how can you be smart? Do you need to scale? I'd say it's much more effective to have a smaller team, and as people love the word, do the impact that way, and then try and actually get definitive change because you're so close to what needs to happen. So until next time, love every time, reading between the lines, all that good stuff. We're over and we're out.